Welcome to today's Northwest Passages live stream. My name is Christy Burns. I produce the Morning Review podcast and also help coordinate book club events for Northwest Passages when book club is happening. This is the community forum part of the Spokesman-Review newspaper. And today we're talking about Gonzaga basketball with Spokesman-Review beat reporter Jim Meehan. Jim?
Well, thanks for joining us. Corey Kispert, kind enough to join us today, junior forward at Gonzaga. I think the last time we talked was March 10th, WCC tournament, Las Vegas. Good memories.
Very good, yeah.
A lot has happened since then, so we got a lot of ground to cover. The world changed pretty dramatically in that next week or two with the coronavirus outbreak, but life comes at you pretty fast. I don't know about you, Corey, but I kind of like the good old days of January and February.
Yes, sir, man. We should be on a very nice little celebration of the season we had right about now, but obviously things didn't go the way we wanted.
So we got a lot to talk about, a lot of topics. We'll cover last season a little bit. We'll cover the virus taking away the NCAA tournament opportunities for the Zags fans to watch in Spokane. That's where you guys would have been for those first two games. We've got the NBA draft. You've declared for the draft. We'll talk about the pros and cons of that and staying in or coming back to Gonzaga. And we'll talk about next year's team. Looks pretty loaded on paper and pretty well received in all these early rankings that have come out. And then that schedule for next year too. Incredible what the Zags are lining up. So let's start with the quarantine life that we've all gotten used to here. You're a young student athlete, you're active, you've got practice, you've got school, studying, you're looking at film, you're in the weight room, and then all of a sudden that comes to a screeching halt. How is Corey Kispert in the quarantine life?
I mean, he's stir crazy and he struggles to stay busy, but he's okay. I spent a lot of time at home on the west side with my family, which was really nice. I don't really get to see them as much as I would really want to. And having them around and in the house and getting able to catch up with them for about a month or so was a lot more than, what I normally get to do. So that was a blessing and really thankful for that. And, trying to find new things to stay busy, doing puzzles and playing video games and hanging out. And yeah, it's been good. It's been a lot better than, what I expected it to be.
Have you been able to get into a gym, go to the park, do anything basketball-wise the way you used to?
Yeah, I mean, it's outdoor hoops, man, is what it is, and it's kind of throws you back to when you were a kid. I'm in Spokane now, but when I was at home, thankfully my parents put up a hoop in our backyard when I was growing up, and that's still there. So plenty of space to get some work in and work out. And then thankfully, the staff at Gonzaga has been really proactive as far as getting us equipment in order to work out with and trying to, make the best of what each player specifically has. So they've been really good with that and been able to stay in shape, relatively.
I know you hurt your foot your senior year at Kings High School over in the Seattle area, and that's probably the last time you've done this long without a normal basketball routine. Anything close to this going back years to how long you've been away from actual games and practice and that?
I mean, no, absolutely not. And it's been a blessing and a curse, for guys to, get their body and their minds right. I feel like I'm back at the point where I'm chomping at the bit to go play again. That's a good feeling. It's hard to capture that feeling, when you're in the middle of a season. It's hard to get that feeling every single day going to practice and stuff like that. But to be here and be really wanting to play again is a great feeling for a lot of guys, and it gives a bunch of guys a chance to rest their bodies too. I feel really healthy, and all the nicks and bruises that I had during the season are gone. So I feel great in that regard, and it's been great for that.
Things are kind of opening up a little by little for the economy, businesses, those kind of things. As it relates to basketball, the NCAA has allowed student athletes to do voluntary workouts, I think, on June 1st. is the date they said. I think it depends as well on Washington's regulations and if you'll be able to do that. Is your sense that you guys will be able to do some voluntary workouts? I know with all the protocols are still in place for safety, but is June 1 the target date for the Zags?
Yeah, I think it's pretty close. And if it's not June 1st, it'll be right around there. I think, Coach Few and Coach Lloyd are being really proactive in trying to get conversations going. Struck up with not only the athletic department but also the state and the city. And we have a lot of guys who come from different countries who don't really know any better except for just to kind of stay in their apartment all day long, and it's starting to kind of wear on them, being in the same spot. And so having a little outlet they can go to, like the gym, to spend a few hours of their day would be really good. And it's all going to be voluntary, but I think that a lot of guys would take advantage of that when it comes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got to believe for you, for your teammates, for the international guys who weren't able to go home during all this virus pandemic, that's going to be a big deal, just to be able to feel a little more normal and bounce the ball and maybe work in pairs or whatever drills they'll let you do. That's got to feel pretty good for you and your teammates.
Yeah, it feels great. And I know for those guys, they're really happy whenever any one of the other teammates comes back to campus, just to kind of see another face and change up with their routine a little bit, because it was pretty monotonous and pretty boring for them. So I'm really happy that Spokane specifically is starting to kind of slowly open up and give those guys a chance to do some normal things again.
Besides fine-tuning your video game prowess, how have you been able to stay in shape? What have you been able to do? Lifting, conditioning? Are you hoisting soup cans as weights? What are you doing to stay up with things?
It's pretty much about as basic as you can get. Like, I've been filling backpacks with rocks. I've been going on runs with weighted vests, and I've been working out with everything that I had at home. Digging through our garage, trying to find stuff, and thankfully I had a hoop, like a really good hoop in our backyard, so I could shoot whenever I wanted to. But making sure I was in shape, my body was in shape, going on runs and lifting, all that stuff has been a little bit trickier of a challenge to meet.
One of the things I've learned from covering student athletes for 30 years, especially the last 15, is every guy on the team thinks they're the best video game player. Where do you rank? Who's the best, and where do you rank?
See, Jim, I'm an exception to that rule. I know where I stand on that list, and it's not the top. I'm pretty low on the scale. I'm trying to get better. But guys like Joel come to mind. Drew's pretty good too. Those guys play a lot and are really good at it. They kick my butt regularly.
Yeah, Tilly brags a little bit too.
Yeah, he's all smoke. He's all talk. All bark, no bite. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the draft. You put your name in, I think, in late April. Joel Ayayi has done the same, and so has Philip Petrushiev. Obviously, that's a big decision in itself to put your name in. I'm sure you talked to the coaches. I'm sure you talked to your family. Did you talk to any other former Zags? You've got kind of some reference points there, guys in the NBA now that went through it and have declared. Who'd you talk to, and what kind of advice did you hear?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the two main guys I talked to were, Josh in BC. Josh, to kind of just, hear what his experience has been like, as a senior, kind of coming out and waiting to the very end, and the kind of things he's done, where he's been. And he was super insightful and really honest with me. Josh has always been honest with me, and that was great. He was pretty much my first call, and then Brandon for more of a plug and play, more of a instant impact kind of role. Brandon has a much different perspective, and he's had a lot of success in the league so far. He's had a great rookie year, and I mean, it's good to just catch up with those guys. Anyways, they have a busy season, and they're busy with their teams, so now they have a little bit of a break too. It's good to catch up and kind of pick their brains a little bit about their different situations and stuff. But a lot of really good things, a lot of trust your gut, a lot of, you're good enough to play, a lot of all that. And so it's been positive, advice from both Josh and BC.
tell me if I'm wrong. I think even before you have to put your name in, you can put your name through the NBA Draft Advisory Board, I think they're called. And they send you back feedback where you might go if you're a first, second, free agent, where you might fall. What did you hear back from that advisory board when you sent in your name?
Yeah, it was pretty much all concentrated in the early second round.
And early in the second round? You didn't hire an agent. In fact, none of the Zags are declared hired agents. So I think there's a little misconception with that. In the old days, if you hired an agent, by rule, you had to stay in the draft. Nowadays, you can hire an agent that's NCAA certified to some degree, go through the process and still come back if you want. Why did you go the route of no agent?
Yeah, I mean, just talking with the coaching staff here and their experience with agents in the market, the guys that they recommended for me were not NCAA certified, and they said, I think you should go this direction or this direction. These guys would be really good fits for you. And they weren't certified, so it was a no-brainer for me to not go. And it gives me a ton of flexibility to work transparently with the staff. The last thing I want to do is kind of go behind their back and do something that they don't know about. And that kind of strong working relationship with them kind of gives me some good clarity on both ends of the spectrum with the NBA and also with GU about what I really want to know and the kind of feedback I've been getting. So working with them has been great, and it's been pretty much smooth sailing, kind of the way I've chose to do it.
I did a story several months ago, I think even before you guys declared, about you three that ended up submitting your names, and then Killian Tilly. And I kept track throughout the year. Each of you four guys at different points of the year were the top Zag on a draft board, which I found pretty interesting. Most years it's clearly one guy and maybe another, the BC Rui maybe debate, but four different guys. I guess that might speak to the balance that Gonzaga had last year.
Yeah, that was the name of the game for their team like last year. We always talk about balance with GU, and some years it's stronger than others, and last year was about as good as I've ever seen. Each of those guys are super successful on the college level, and they deserve the credit they're getting. So the fact that all four of us are at some point at the top of whatever board you were looking at was a good sign of how good not only we were as a team, but how people at the next level perceive us to be.
Corey, there's no workouts yet. That might change. They've moved the withdrawal date back from June 3rd. They haven't set the date. I anticipate they'll have to move the draft back at some point. How does that affect you? Do you feel like you need to have, to get in front of executives and work out in those NBA drills that, that they have 3 or 4 of their key guys watching from the sideline?
Yeah,
up or down, is that big for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now it's basically what we're going through for the draft process is what we're doing right now. It's Zoom interviews, and you can only tell so much about a potential player through a Zoom interview. And I think in my case, it would be a really good thing for me to get in front of the right people and kind of show them what I have, face to face in person. And like you said, it's tough. It's really tough to have that, June 3rd date moved back because you're leaving pretty much everybody in limbo. You're leaving guys like me in limbo, Coach Few's in limbo now, and they just don't have any answers for anybody. So as the NBA kind of continues to figure out what they want to do as far as continuing their season, we all just have to sit and wait. So it can be a little bit frustrating as far as just waiting and not really having any answers day by day, but it's also a good thing for a lot of guys because they're going to get the answers they need, whether that's positive or negative feedback at the end of the day.
This is my first Zoom interview, by the way. I'm a little technologically challenged, maybe in the mold of Coach Few in that regard, but my daughter was kind enough to get me connected to Zoom and coach me a little bit. But
you're doing great, yeah.
Yeah, how many have you done with the NBA teams?
It's been a good amount. I'm just past a dozen about a couple days ago, and it's getting close to 15, 16 now.
Any sense if you'll be able to work out for teams? Is there any rumbling out there?
I mean, just there's a good chance. I mean, it all revolves around when the NBA starts their season, and it all revolves around that. As soon as teams figure out, when they can play their games next, and who's going to be playing in those games, and where they're going to be as far as playoff contention and stuff, and then the dominoes will start to fall, and then soon enough or later they'll figure out draft stuff. And so it's going to be pretty far down the line, I think. But I mean, if things go the way they are, and states continue to kind of slowly open up, there's a good chance that later in the summer, you could, if you're still in, you could go work out for a team.
What do you hear back from NBA teams and the input? You probably get a lot of feedback from your coaching staff because they talk to all the NBA executives. What do you hear back on what they like about your game, and what do you hear back on what they want you to work on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thankfully, it's been very consistent across the board. It's been there hasn't been super high highs and low lows to kind of sift out. It's been all kind of really consistent, and I've been thankful for that. Obviously, teams, especially in today's NBA, love my shooting and love the way that I can space the floor and shoot it quick and accurately. And they also really like my size. At 6'7" and a bigger set, I'd be able to defend multiple positions, run the floor, be athletic at the rim, to complement my shooting. And then they also are fans of, from what they heard about character, being a good teammate, culture guy, locker room guy. That's pretty appealing to a lot of teams as well. And then as far as stuff to work on, just being able to really hone in and lock in on defense, guarding, the best players, the most athletic people in the world, stuff like that is something I really need to work on. And then also just tightening up my screws a little bit more on ball handling and being able to be efficient with the ball and attacking the rim and making simple moves and stuff like that.
What will keep you in the draft? What do you need to hear to stay in the draft? What will bring you back to Gonzaga?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's the $1 million question. And it basically has something along the lines of, I need to hear something from from a team that, has all the package to have me, let go of my senior year at Gonzaga. And that's worth a lot. From the people here to the program to the atmosphere, games we're playing, it's worth a lot. And so knowing that I can be secure in whatever an NBA team offers me is basically kind of what you have to weigh. And then, at the end of the day, if you don't get that, that's perfectly fine with me. I mean, I said in my statement, whatever, in early April, like I'd be thrilled to come back and play for my senior year. And as we're going to talk about probably a little bit later, compete for a national championship, do all those things, and hopefully come back at the end of my senior year with an even higher stock and an even better chance.
It seems like there's no bad option there. So either way, it's probably going to work out great. But let's talk a little bit about last season. I know in the off season before the year, there was, Zag fans were kind of wondering what they had. They'd lost 2 first-round picks, 2 or 3 other guys to the NBA or overseas. And then kind of what the Zags have been able to do throughout this run, guys step into bigger roles. You were one of those guys. You went from, I think you told me once, a 4th or 5th option to being a primary guy. How satisfying, I mean, that just doesn't happen. You have to put in the work to make it happen, but how satisfying was that season for you?
Yeah, it was a lot of work kind of accumulated into this year. A lot of learning, a lot of absorbing, kind of being, like you said, a 4th or 5th option. And I wouldn't change it. It's what, led me to having this year was just learning from the guys above me and learning from the guys who, played those minutes and took those shots in the years prior. And, obviously it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work, especially last summer to get my head and my body and my game right in order to, take on that load.
Corey, we talked about this during the season after you were hitting 3-pointers all over the place. You had a chance to work out with Joe Harris, who kid from Eastern Washington, and ended up playing at Virginia in the NBA now. I think he was on the Olympic team, the last Olympic team. Talk us through that a little bit, how that came about and how that impacted your 3-point shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I always wanted to do. It was kind of a pipe dream for me to try to make that connection when I came to GU. And thankfully I had a couple of friends on the West Side who knew Joe really well, and I kind of got connected to him through those guys. And it was great. I mean, I went to Chelan for 3 days, and we worked out in the morning. We hung out at the lake, in the afternoon, and it was great. I learned a lot about mechanics of his shot, from his foot prep to his hand prep, where he shoots it from, the high pocket, all that stuff. But more than really anything I took from him was the way he approached, especially the college game, and the way he took on his junior and senior year, and he gave me a lot of good advice about how to approach that, how to attack it. And I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for him and the time he took, and I'm still kind of staying in and out of contact with him, up until really recently, and trying to see how his team's doing, how he's doing, and hopefully when they get back to playing again.
Corey, I'm going to ask you a question that I get asked a million times. You played on last year's team. You played on the year before. The 2019 squad with Rui and BC is kind of the headliners. That team had a great season. You guys had a great season. You guys did it more with balance. 4 or 5, 6 different guys could beat you on a given night. That team just threw the ball to Rui and Brandon a lot and did a lot of damage. How would that game turn out if those two teams were to clash?
Yeah, it'd be tough, man. It'd be really tough. And I mean, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's a little bit of 2 different styles. But I think that the 2018, 2019, the year, the first year, was the most talented team I've ever been a part of. And I think with those guys kind of spearheading the charge, they're just so unique in each way they played the game, and they were a matchup nightmare no matter who you put on them. So I think it'd be close. I think we'd have a good shot, but I honestly think that 2018 team would probably win, just based off of that talent and that elite front line they put out there. It'd be tough for us to handle.
I'd love to see that game.
So,
most athletic player you've seen at Gonzaga? I've got a pretty good guess. But
yeah, it's Brandon. It's not even close. Yeah.
If you decide to come back, if Joel and Phil decide to come back, with that incoming class, Jalen Suggs, who wins an award about every other week, it seems like, and Dominic Harris, Strother, the guys returning, that hype train is going to be going full speed. What do you make of that roster if that's how it turns out?
Yeah, and I think we're gonna live up to every single bit of hype, that everybody's building up to. Yeah. I've talked to coaches and I've watched a little bit of those guys play. Jalen's obviously a winner. I mean, he wins awards every week. Won a ton of games on the court and on the field playing football. He's tough as nails. And I'm really excited to play with him and kind of have the impact that he has on the game right away is going to be great for us as a program. And then, the other 2 guys, Julian and Dom, are great players too. I mean, they don't deserve to be put in the back seat to anybody. They're great players and they're going to have a really big impact too. And they're only going to help us. And they're going to push. The best part is they're going to push the guys that are coming back really, really hard too. And they're going to make us even better. There's going to be no smooth sailing, no cruising or Cadillacing from any of us, because those guys are really, really good players. And we're going. I mean, the rankings, kind of the preseason rankings, kind of are guessing at it, but I think we're going to be really good.
I'll get one more for you, and then we'll read a couple from the people who are watching. A couple questions, and we'll wrap it up for you. But that schedule coming up. Arizona, Washington, Texas Tech, Tennessee, the tournament in Orlando, I think Michigan State, Auburn, some big names there. I think Gonzaga tends to schedule a little tougher when they know they've got the lineup, the roster that they anticipate. As a player going into that type of schedule, if you're back, what runs through your head?
You eat it up. You absolutely eat it up. And I wish we could play more games like that. I wish our entire schedule was like that. And I mean, those are the games that you come here for, and those are the games you play for. And hopefully, all those games will line up, and we'll play the best team in each situation. And really excited to have the opportunity to play Tech again and to play Tennessee again. And that Arizona game was really fun. I would love to play them over here in Spokane. And yeah, a lot of really good games on the calendar and a lot of games that I'm super excited to play.
All right. These came in from the text line, so my eyes are going to go a little crooked on you, but hang with me. From Troy, what's your timeline on a final decision whether or not to return to Gonzaga?
It's a good question, and I really don't even know that myself. And that's the tough part for fans to kind of digest, is that there's, these NBA teams are kind of pumping the brakes now that we don't have to decide. We don't have the June 3rd date got pulled back, and they have to finish their season. So we're not exactly getting the most precise feedback and exactly the feedback that we want to hear. And so my timeline's pushed back as far as that date will allow me to, and I'll decide when that thing gets set again.
One more, Ryan asked, what in terms of your development as a player, how do you weigh your options and decide that declaring now is a better decision than you had waited one more year?
Yeah, I mean, you got to strike when the iron's hot, and there's no guarantees about my health or the way that my senior year will go, or even if there's going to be a full length season. So I had a good enough year this year to take advantage of that and go see what's going on. And just because there's no guarantees for next year in any regard, you got to do it when you can.
I'll sneak one more in. I know last year you worked, wanted to thin out just a little bit, 5-10 pounds, wanted to get more mobile. The 3-point shooting, obviously. What's on the summer agenda this year? What are you working on?
Yeah, it's going to be all about movement and all about quickness. It's going to be making sure I'm getting into closeouts quick and getting out of them quick. Making sure I maintain the weight that I'm at now. I'm at a good spot, and just really proving to teams the next level that I can guard multiple positions and be a really, really good defender is what's going to make me stick in the NBA for a long time. So that's kind of the blueprint going into this year.
Well, Corey, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you on a basketball court soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both. That was amazing. I can't believe, Jim, that was your first Zoom video. I mean, your interview, really, truly, you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for hanging out in our live stream. There are 2 more coming up today. At 11, we're talking about how to get a job during a pandemic. And then at 1:30, Mayor Nadine Woodward will talk with Adam Shanks about Spokane and Phase 2. All of these videos and discussions are archived on our site, so you'll be able to go back and rewatch this over and over. You can access that all for free. Perhaps you would consider making a donation to the Community Journalism and Civic Engagement Fund via the Inovia Foundation instead of a ticket price. We are adapting to new ways of doing business and bringing you all the facts and information that matter, and we appreciate your support. Go Zags! Thanks again for joining us today.